Porch. This is the place to be right now. If you're having lunch and you're on East Coast time, fantastic. If you're having breakfast, even better. And you're on the West Coast time. Welcome to the Porch. I'm Lindsay Bocardo. I'm a keynote speaker and virtual presenter for organizations who want to build strong, heart-centered, multi-generational teams. I personally believe that the modern day leader has a moral obligation to grow personally from the inside out and lead others from a grounded and healthy and healed place. So you're going to hear me bring on psychologists, neuroscience experts, storytellers, emotional intelligence researchers, really anyone that will help you and I grow as leaders personally, and ultimately knowing that we are impacting the culture of our organizations. This is where I bring my favorite thought leaders, and I have one of my personal heroes and mentors. Megan is here with us. She's the owner and COO of Tippi. She's also a speaker. She's fantastic. You may have seen her on Shark Tank. She has been on Shark Tank. I have watched her episode a creepy amount of times. And I'll tell you, her idea that she brought to the table, and she explained it strategically with multiple different types of income streams, it was so sharp that Mark Cuban jumped on it. And maybe we'll talk about that. But Megan talks about that everywhere. So maybe we'll just skip it this time. We'll see. But I'll tell you, the first time I met her, we were on a Zoom and I was just scrolling, like in 2020 when you'd go on a Zoom to network, I was just doing that, scrolling through the gallery, and her energy literally leapt off the screen. And I thought, I have to know this person. Reached out to her. She's been in my life as a mentor. She's helped me really in hard times with decisions and stress. And she's just an incredible human. And the fact that you're spending time with us today, Megan, means the world. Thank you so much for being here.
I'm fired up. I can't just say ditto to everything because it is weird, but there's mutual admiration for sure. And it's just fun to get with people that there's so much alignment, and, we're all trying to do stuff. We're all, have dreams, and just being around and in groups like this is so powerful. It's such a gift. And I have to say, before we go any further, I love that you do these live. I feel like the minute I talk to you, you always are thoughtful about how you do things. You don't just do it because this is what is done. You are thoughtful about what you do. And I dig that about you. So thanks for having me. I'm fired up.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think we need connection more than ever. And this is a chance if, for me too, when I'm live, I'm like, there are real people here. I don't have to use my imagination. People are in this with us. And I also think that we all want access to people who are farther down the road than us on our journey, on our business journey, on our leadership journey. And so speaking of that, if you're here with us today and you have a question for Megan, just start putting them in the chat now. Sam, our teammate, is going to help collect those so we make sure we ask her because there's so many things we're going to cover, and we might touch on something that is really important to you. So just bring it back to us and we'll talk about that. I'm so curious. There's a million things we talk about, Meg, but I want to start with your new project because this is such a rad idea. This podcast is blowing up. Megan, you have a podcast where you are interviewing the mothers that raised CEOs, top athletes, high achieving individuals. Brilliant. Can you tell us how you came up with this idea?
I thought of this idea because I was trying to figure out what to do. I just sometimes I'm like, sometimes you just try. Sometimes you just try.
Yeah.
There were times. So I have been running my company for a long time, Tippi, and I knew I wanted to develop a personal brand also. It just was important to me. I loved Gary Vee. I was listening to him a lot, kept talking about it. But at this point I had babies like at home, bottles everywhere, whatever. And I was all in there. And I was all in on my business. So I couldn't really do anything else. But I started thinking, and I started really reflecting, like, what could I do separately? Like, who am I going to be? What am I going to do?
Mm-hmm.
And I thought for a long time about it. And I came what at the same time I'm raising my babies, and I'm thinking to myself, all right, I want them to be nice humans. I want them to be have integrity. I want them to find passion in their life. I want them to, like, all these things that Google's not going to tell me how to do. Like Google told me how to do a lot of things, like how to get them to sleep or this or that, but it doesn't tell you how to develop a human being that is fulfilled in their life. Like that's kind of a big order, that's kind of a hard thing to do. And so I thought I like to talk to my mom, and she's helpful, but not everybody has that. So I wonder, and I just started thinking like, well, what is Sarah Blakely's mom, founder of Spanx? Like, what did she do? And then I just started thinking like, man, the moms have a lot of insight. And so that's really, it came from a place of, I want to try something new and what's true to me. And that is my theme. I would say we'll just hit it right off the bat, is like being true to yourself. Like, what's real to me? I could have, I considered franchising. Do I talk about franchising? Do I talk about business? Do I talk about, what do I talk about? But it was more true for me to talk about parenting, because that's what I do 24/7, 365. And that's really a place that lights me up. And so that's how it all started. So I interview the moms who have raised extraordinary people. It is so exciting. There are, I don't know, maybe 16 or 17 episodes out. I learn something every single day from these interviews about how to be a better parent, how to, whether it's to relax and just like, don't stress, or like how to enable your child to find their own gifts. Like, I learned so much. It has been the biggest gift, I would say, I didn't see coming, because I get to shine a spotlight on women who have rarely, if ever, had the spotlight put on them. And it's a gift.
Brilliant.
And I love it. And it's my favorite. And it's so fun. So thank you for asking me about it.
That is brilliant.
Yeah. It's called Who is Your Momma?
Yeah. Sam just put it in the chat for everybody. Thank you, Sam. So they can check it out. This is something that's very true of you. You work very hard to be aligned. Do things you enjoy. I remember we've had these conversations when things were getting really tense and it was hard with business and how do we develop. And you always came back to this. Like, does this sit well with you? Do you want to do this? And you are really good at remaining true to yourself. And the result is that you have ideas that nobody else is thinking of, because you're not looking at everybody else going, I should do it how they do it. You're like, this is what's going to be exciting for me. Yeah. This is what I want to do. And you're just doing it.
Lindsay, I think that's it. That's it. If, as long as you can like get over the hump of, but nobody else is doing this. Because here's the thing, whatever you're going to do, if you're going to be good at it, it's going to take some work, and it's going to take some sweat equity, and it's going to take some night on the couch at 10 o'clock at night. If you don't want to do it on the couch at 10 o'clock at night, you're never going to be good enough to do it, because you have to want to do it all the time. That's how I see it. I've never done anything great. Like, oops, didn't mean to do that. Like everything that's great really comes from hours of work. So like what you're seeing on the podcast right now, I started thinking about this in 2018. Like, there have been so many emails and conversations and attempts and fails that have led up to me being able to say, I was in the top 12 of kids and family on Apple Podcasts. Do you know how many things didn't go right before that happened? So back to your point about alignment, that's where it starts and ends. Like, if you have to want to be there, you have to want to learn more. You have to want to put in the reps if you want to get good at something. And that's why the whole idea of like, never work a day in your life. It's like, I work my tail off, but I have so much fun. I don't feel burdened by my work. I feel joyful about it. And it's because I do things that I'm aligned with.
Well said. I think there is an important nuance there that you're bringing up around, do what you love. You'll never work a day in your life. It's like, well, do what you love, and the things that you're responsible for, you'll feel fulfilled. Mm-hmm. You are going to, like, you and I both do work. Yes. We do. It's not like we're over here blowing bubbles and we're like, oh my gosh, my bank account's going up. Like, you do things strategically all the time.
Oh my God, you're so funny. 100%. 100%. Yeah.
When you think about, like, even in the last week, what's been bumping around your mind with these interviews? Is there a lesson right now that you're kind of chewing through yourself that maybe another mother taught you, or maybe an aha moment that you've had recently with these interviews?
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to sound so, they happen all the time. Like, every interview, I'm like, oh, one of my favorite that I think is hard to do that I keep coming back to is just the idea that your child comes to you as a whole person. We are not there to tell them to get into basketball or to like this or to do this or to shade where they should go or push them into something. If we can allow our kids to bloom where they're planted, that's really special. And that's what I've heard from mom after mom after mom of these people who have raised extraordinary people. I have everything from, like, I mean, athletes, NFL stars, CEO founders, world record holders, it's a dad that interviewed one dad whose daughter is Alyssa Carson. She wants to be the first person to like travel to Mars, and she's like gonna do it. So it's
Hi, Elizabeth.
like, hello. She got her rocket license before she got her driver's license. What? Anyways,
That's pretty normal.
fascinating. I know, right? And he is a single dad. And I'm like, what did you do? How did you do this? Anyways, it's back to like, he was like, she really was into this. I continued to like make sure she had other opportunities, but she was really into this. So I just continued to feel their food or fuel that, fuel
Yeah.
that. And I hear that all the time. Like our kids are telling us what they love and who they are. We have to listen. And
Mm.
that is a lesson that I have learned. And it's all of these lessons are super easy to listen to in an interview. It's a totally different thing when you try to like do it in real life, so
Actually, yeah.
so when my kids are wanting to do things that I'm like, really? Like, oh God, does that mean I'm going to go to a flute concert like that? Okay. Yeah. Like, or whatever it is, it doesn't matter what it is. Like, oh, we're going to go to, we're into NASCAR. Okay, great. Like, whatever the thing is, it doesn't matter. It's not my thing. It's
Oh my
their thing. And so I'm
gosh.
supporting that. I like
I
NASCAR and
remember
flutes. I'm just saying.
we
Whatever.
love a good flute, y'all.
Love it. I love it all.
We're not anti-flute here. This is a safe place for flautists. It was so funny that you say that because I became a step parent like kind of right at the beginning of the pandemic, and we had signed Mo up for basketball, and basketball was like my love sport. I was in love. I love the sound of sneakers squeaking. I love the feel of the basketball. I love lining it up for a foul shot, all of it. And I bring her to this thing. I'm like, you're going to love it. I'm really like hyping her up. Like, you're going to be awesome. You're going to be so tall. It's going to be banging. You're going to love it. You're going to be so good. Megan, when I mean she viscerally hated it to the point where we're going to leave and they're like, okay, everybody grab your club t-shirts for the next game because they match your team colors. And she's like, I don't even want the t-shirt. I don't even want the t-shirt. I want to go. I never want to come back. And that was like one of my first lessons in, like, my dream is not your dream. It's probably not even close. So how do I create space for you to be you, because you are definitely not me. And it's a little different too as a step parent because I didn't know her whole life. So, I'm kind of coming in as the train is already moving.
Right.
And I can see how as parents, any parent, doesn't matter if you're a step parent, a bio parent, whatever you are doing with a child, it's very humbling to recognize that they are living a whole different world than you. They're a whole different person than you.
Well, especially because it's on the heels of you doing everything for them 24/7. And you're
That's
like,
right.
I think it's very easy for a parent to start to feel like ownership and like, you are mine. I have done so much for you. Look at what I've given you, which is like, no, it's like, that's not how, but I also think we've all had visions. I mean, I thought about my kids playing basketball long before I had a kid, long before I met my husband, long before, like I envisioned what it would be like to sit in the stands and be like, yeah, like I thought about that. I don't know if that's going to happen in my life. So it's like, it's reprogramming what your expectations are and remembering that they are their own complete person. So it's logical. It makes sense. It's a different thing to practice it. But this is what I love is you continue to hear these conversations, and I've heard it enough that I'm like, okay, this is a thing. I've heard it from enough moms and I'm like, yeah, this is something I'm going to make sure I get right.
Yep. Okay, there's this phrase, now that you say that I hear business leaders say, people leaders, and I hear parents say, and I want your real response to this.
Okay.
Are you telling me that I'm supposed to give them something that I didn't have? I didn't have that when I was a kid. I didn't have that when I was a new employee. I had to figure it all out myself. I hear this phrase. It's literally, I should make a t-shirt that says like, be the parent, be the leader you didn't have. Like, when you hear, it's definitely just a natural human response in the parenting world and in the leadership world. Mm-hmm. What do you think when you hear that?
I think that's a mindset conversation that needs to have around abundance. Like, there is plenty of good. Like, we can give all the good that we have to all the people that we have at any moment. Like, we don't have to hold things back because you didn't get it or because, there's plenty of it. And aren't we all supposed to make things better? Like, how do we grow if we're not making things better? We are, if you think about it in terms of a business, we aren't growing a business to stay the same size. We're growing it to prosper and to thrive, whether that means by people and by money, whatever. We're trying to make a bigger impact. Well, you're not raising a child, you're raising an adult. So when they are
Boom.
little, you are not there to keep them where they are. You're there to help them grow. And if that means you're giving them more than you ever had, then you're doing it. That's what you should be doing. And actually, it's interesting that you say that you hear that a lot. That makes me sad because I'm like, oh my gosh, that's like missing, like, that's ignoring evolution. That's like not considering how we're going to get better, how we're going to grow. I want to take what I've learned and give it to them and then give them a little bit more so that then they can do it for the next round. Like don't do that. Don't think that way.
Done. Don't think that way. That's perfect.
Yeah,
That
don't do
also
that.
needs to be on a t-shirt. Sam, write down these t-shirt ideas. We'll figure out a deal with the sharks later. Yes, but so part of what comes up whenever I'm with you, whether we're having a life team talk about like my own needs and you're mentoring me, or we're here, or I hear you on somebody else's podcast, one thing that comes up is this thread of emotional intelligence and that mindset. And I'm curious for you, you have a whole franchise that you are building out. So you've got teammates, you've got people you lead, you have teammates, you have all these layers. What environments do you put yourself in that have helped you grow the most, emotionally intelligent wise?
Yeah, I love that question because I will say I didn't do this for a really long time. And I've started to do it, and the difference has been pretty substantial. So for a lot of years, back to where I was, like when I was running Tippi for a long time and having kids, and I didn't network. I didn't have a mentor. I wasn't doing anything. I was in my own little bubble, and I just thought this is what people do. I don't know. I wasn't on LinkedIn. I didn't do any of that stuff. 2019, I got connected with Jesse Itzler. I sent him a cold DM. He didn't know me from anybody. I sent him a message asking if I could interview his mom. He said yes. I was like, I don't know how to do a podcast. I don't know how to do anything, but he said yes. So I got to figure it all out. That started. And actually that same year I got on to, no, I didn't get on LinkedIn until later. That started me being exposed to somebody like Jesse, who he's a New York Times bestselling author. He's an entrepreneur.
He's like 10 people put into one person.
He really is. And that's actually what his like goal is to have like 5 days in one. That's how he lives his life. He's unbelievable. I don't know anybody like him, but we developed a friendship really at that point. And I started listening and started paying attention and started to getting fueled by the things that he was doing and saying. That led, then simultaneously, I was also getting onto LinkedIn and meeting more people that way. And I would say it's been such a profound impact for me to meet people, to be pushed by people, to see people, to spend my time with people who have really big, big, big dreams and goals.
Big.
And before that, I kind of had the biggest dreams of people that I knew. Like I didn't, and all of a sudden when I get around people like you, like Sarah Blakely, like Jesse Itzler, Kara Golden, like these people that have built these amazing businesses, and I'm having conversations with them and I'm like, oh, this is doable. It makes you realize how close we all are to living the life of our dreams.
Brilliant.
And I didn't know that until I really got with these people that I admired so much from afar. I found myself then friends with them, and I realized that we're all this close to doing it, really, like to doing whatever you want. So whatever your goal is, whatever your dream is, like if you can believe in yourself and get yourself around people that believe in you too, the opportunities, the potential, the excitement, the joy that you'll feel in the journey even like is really powerful. So not only is it just like you might reach that goal, more importantly, you'll enjoy the process getting to it. It's fun. That's more important than the actual end game. It's really been, it's been a joy for me to be around those kind of people, and it fuels me as I go.
There's two parts that you're talking about. There's this like borrowing other people's courage from them as you talk to them, and then getting a vision like I'm only one step away. I could actually, my belief is like getting stronger. But then there's this also practical piece of, hey, if you're around people that are doing cool stuff, there's a good chance that they're going to need you at some point to help them do a cool thing.
100%. And that's been huge. And the other thing that's interesting that I've learned is as soon as I am next to Jesse and Sarah and Kara, people see me differently. I'm no different than I was 4 years ago, 5 years ago, when nobody knew who I was. And I mean, like, it's not, the crowds aren't around here right now.
There's
Like,
paparazzi.
they're everywhere. I can't get it through my day. It's not like that, but I've had the perception has changed just because I'm friends with them. And so that's just like its own separate thing. But also you're right in that the opportunities that come because of that, but you have to put yourself there. No
That's
one's
right.
gonna like escort you to your dreams.
Gee.
You really have to be ready to be tenacious and to, if that door gets cracked open, to run through that door. Don't wait for someone to open it and be like, come on, you can do it. Like, you have to have that little bit of, not little bit, you have to have that spark and that desire to go. But when you do, and you're surrounded with the right people, conversations happen, connections happen. It is very, very powerful. I cannot recommend enough just putting yourself in front of people. And it might feel awkward at first, but it's not awkward for anybody except in your own brain. Nobody else thinks it's awkward. Like, they respond, great. They don't, great. Like, you keep moving on. So I think putting yourself in those positions, in those rooms with those people, is key. And it has made a huge difference in my life in like 2 years. Like, it hasn't been that long, and it's made a massive, massive impact.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And watching, it's fun too, because watching how those connections shift your trajectory in real time is kind of wild. It's wild to watch.
It's wild to experience it, because I'm also kind of like, I mean, okay, like this, it is weird, honestly, to be perfectly frank. And just since it's just us guys, but like, really, it's odd to me in a way, because it's almost hard to like recognize that it's that big of a difference, but it is. Like, as soon, it's validation, and so many people need that validation, and the validation comes, it's like, okay, but I still have to show up as me. And I think that's important. No matter where you are, who you're with.
That's really true. Showing up where people, we talk about this tension between being consistent and professional, and then also being yourself. Like, maybe not every day you start out in the best, like everything worked out and everything's perfect, but showing up consistently so that people can build trust with you. Like, oh, Megan's reliable. She's always here. She always shows. I had no doubt you would pop on Zoom. Like, there was no like, oh my gosh, should I text her? What's happening? And, there's this part of being able to be consistent in that way, and knowing who you are enough, and being solid in who you are enough that you can show up in maybe more high profile environments and not be freaked out.
Yeah, totally.
Or be freaked out and still go.
And exactly. That's true too. That is definitely true. But I would say too, the minute that I started working with Jesse, I mean, I've only done this. This is how I would have done it, whether I was working with Jesse or not. I was going to over deliver. Like, they didn't have to ask me for anything twice. Everything was easy. And that's back to like, when you were talking about, it's not like we don't work. Like, you and I hustle. We do, like, part of the reason that you are this wonderful world-renowned speaker is because you show up, you continue to deliver, you do the work. It's not like you're just a really fun person. You have put in the work. So with all of these relationships too, I have put in the work as well. So there's always the dichotomy of like, good fortune, be yourself, have fun, but also like, put your money where your mouth is and deliver. Like, you have to do both.
Like, keep your promises. Just keep your promises.
Yeah.
People say that, the way that people will talk about, like, and I wonder if this happens to you too. People are like, you're so much fun and so much fun to be here. I'm like, I am also probably the most high-strung person you've ever met. Ask my dentist. Like, ask Sam.
Are you a grinder? Do you grind your teeth at night?
I got a special guard, y'all. I got a special guard. But like, ask Sam, who does video shoots with me. Ask Lauren, who does podcasts with me. There is like this tension of, I also feel the responsibility and the pressure to be consistent, to show up, to be ready, to be prepared. And then I can be light and have fun. Mm-hmm. But it's really both those pieces. I'm not just here like shooting who's this Megan person? I see. It's much more deep than that. And it's interesting to prepare so that you can be. You do this all day. You prepare all day so that you can show up and be yourself.
It's true. It's totally true. And I would say, actually, this is a lesson I learned from Shark Tank. One of them is that focus on what's within your control and what's going to get you closer to your goal. And that means being laser focused on what you need to do so that when it comes time to deliver, you deliver. So the reason that, we had success and it was good on Shark Tank, we knew what we were doing inside, outside, upside down. No one was going to trick me up on our numbers, because I had practiced them so many times, because I studied film. I literally studied the previous season. I knew everything about the sharks. I knew what they liked, what they didn't like. I knew who might be interested. I knew where they had business failures. I knew where they had business wins. I knew that I couldn't make them like me, but I could put myself in a position to have a very interesting conversation if it came up. I knew I could position certain things in certain ways. And that was because I focused
Yeah.
on what was within my control. So it's back to,
Yes.
no, it's not an accident, that we did well on Shark Tank. We did the work to make that happen. We did the work to not look like fools on national television, because if you go
Yeah.
there and you're not ready, they will eat you alive. And we knew that after watching season 1.
Oh, yes.
So to your point, like, yeah, everything that you see, I have a blast doing it, but I've also always been the type of person that over prepares. I don't want to
Yes.
find myself like, like, I don't know what's
Yep.
going on. I don't want to be that person. I want to set myself up for success, and that takes work and that takes reps. But if you're doing what you love, you don't mind the reps. You don't
It
mind.
doesn't bother you. The
Not at
journey's
all.
fun. I bet you
Mhm.
love getting into like what has Mark Cuban done? What has he done before? What will work in the
Totally.
future? Do I know my numbers backwards and forwards? There's this, you did the prep so it looked effortless, but you also enjoyed the whole journey to get there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's also, I'm constantly on a journey of some sort. I'm
Yeah.
on a journey with the podcast. I'm on a journey with Tippi. I'm still on all these journeys. So I'm still doing a lot of work that no one might ever see. No one might not ever even
Yeah.
come to fruition, but I know it calms me, frankly, to do that work, to put myself in a position to have opportunities. And that's really, that comes from doing the work and putting the reps in. And also, frankly, there's a part of me that likes it because I know that some people won't have the grittiness to do it. And I'm like, good, I'll take it then. There's that competitiveness. Yeah. There's
Yeah.
that
Oh, totally.
competitiveness that comes with finding the things that you love. And that also comes when you're doing something you love. If I didn't love it, I'd be like, I don't care. You can win,
Yeah.
you
Who
know?
cares? Yep.
Yeah. But you want to be the best speaker on the planet. You're going to do what you need to do to make that happen.
Yep.
So,
And I don't even need to be the most famous speaker. I just want to be the best, which are
mhm,
two different things too.
so true.
I was thinking about that. My story coach was saying, like, you just want to be the best. You don't need to be the most
Yeah.
famous. I'm like, yeah, I actually don't want to be. I just want to be the very best at exactly what I do.
Yeah.
There's something very,
That's
it
such a good
releases.
focus.
Yeah.
Mhm,
Yeah.
mhm.
Speaking of kind of emotional intelligence and running businesses and being leaders, I want to talk to you about this idea that you brought to me one day when I was under a lot of stress. It has to do with oven temperatures. Do you remember this?
I do. I do.
So I was like frustrated with something, and I know we all are going through more waves of kind of stress than normal potentially. And I think at this time probably somebody in my house had COVID. There was like layers and layers and layers, and I came to you and I just was flabbergasted about something, and I was like, how I feel so mad, and the anger is not actually going to help me move forward. I feel so
Mhm.
frustrated, it's not going to help me move forward. And you said, you can control the temperature of your oven.
Yeah.
Do you remember anything else from
Yeah.
this, or?
No, I do. I do. And what's funny is I know that you've had April Sprintz on this amazing
Yes.
show before. And April was the one who, when I went to her one time and I said, I'm flabbergasted and so mad, she said, hey, you can control the temperature. So I say that
Yes.
also just to remind everybody too, that we should all be sharing. We should all be learning. Cause like you
Yes.
weren't going to have that conversation with April and you needed that in that moment. And I had that conversation. So it's like, oh, perfect. So keep sharing, keep talking, keep helping people. Cause you never know when you can be the conduit that makes it work. So the idea is that, when something goes wrong, when you have a reaction and you get so mad and you get so hot and you get so frustrated, the truth is, do you really have to get to that level? Is this really a level 10 code red worst thing ever? Is this a really, let me turn my oven to 450? Or can you see this issue and can you address it at 350? Or can you really realize, you know what? This is frustrating, but I'm going to just manage this at 220 and then I'm going to keep going through my day. And as soon as you start to realize, like, listen, there's times when you have to get 450.
Totally.
450 happens and that's okay. But when you start to realize that you can manage that response and you can manage that temperature, that gives you the freedom to move through it.
That's right.
Disasters are going to happen. Problems are going to happen. They happen every single day in my life. It's a matter of how you move through it. If you can metabolize a win and a loss as a opportunity to learn, then nothing stops you.
Mm-hmm.
If something comes to you and it blows your world up, and then you're riding this roller coaster of emotion, you aren't moving forward. You're just going up and down. You're just flipping out. But if you can
Yes.
figure out how to kind of how to calibrate and how to keep your temperature, steady, as steady as you can, then you are empowered. Then nothing is going to slow you down. Then if you do have that day, you get to 450, and you figure out how to get it back down to 350 and then 250, and then you keep moving on. So the idea is to check your oven temperature and to keep it low when you can, or keep it as low as you can as you do it, because that
Yes.
allows you to continue to move forward through what will inevitably be hard days at times.
That's so well said. I think that's really helpful because, and I had a feeling Karen was going to comment, and she totally did. That's so wild, because we have HR leaders here, we have parents here, we have leaders in small and large companies here, and this idea of I can see what's happening. There's something happening out there. I'm going to decide. I might have a flash reaction. In the coaching world, we'll say like you'll probably have an initial like fight or flight or stress reaction, and then you can go, oh, this is like totally spiked me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, how do I actually want to respond to this?
Mm-hmm.
And that muscle has been flexed more. If you know about this muscle, it's probably been flexed more in the last year or two than it has been in a long time. And the quicker that you can learn it, the safer you are for other people too, right? Because you're not like, oh man, that I'm a passionate person that's never going to go away. I'm an intense person that's never going to go away. And the other side of that is I can be all those things and just monitor my temperature, my own
Mm-hmm.
oven.
Yeah, it's so true. And I think someone in these leadership positions, like
Yes,
you, Lindsay, and everybody here, that if you're in any position where you're really working with people, um, it's like, I love that you said it's a safe place. It's a really valuable thing to be able to be that person that can be the safe place, that doesn't, go here when they don't have to. It just presents opportunities eventually, and you never know how it can rub off on people and what impact it can make. And when we talk about culture, like, we're all responsible for the culture that we're in. So wouldn't
that's
it be
right.
great to bring that into the culture? Wouldn't that be great if that was something that people started to really take hold of? But also, you said at the top of the hour, and I love it, is that, we all are still doing the work to continue to grow ourselves. And
That's
as
right. Yeah,
leaders, it's so important to do. And this is a way that, all of us could go crazy when those bad moments happen. Like, it's not like it doesn't, you don't feel it, but it's taking that extra step to then be like, can I manage this at 350? If I can, that's where I'm going to manage it. And frankly, it's for your own good, and
it's to save energy.
yeah, it absolutely is to save energy and then keep you moving forward. So,
That's so smart. Yeah. Well, and I think you brought up a good point too, is that you're not doing it. You're not like bypassing yourself. Like, I don't matter. Turn the oven down. It's like, ooh, this
right.
really tweaked me. It's probably because XYZ. I know why I'm tweaked. I just am going to decide now. I can accept that my oven went cranked
Mm-hmm.
and now I'm going to put it back to 350 because I just don't need that much heat on this situation.
Yes.
So, I think it's so wise. Part of emotional intelligence is that self-awareness and self-acceptance of, ooh, that really tweaked me out. There are certain
Yeah.
things for me that just really
Mm-hmm.
grind me.
Yeah.
And it's just a me thing. It's not a real world thing. It's not a real problem.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a gift, honestly, once I learned that, because I think depending on the role that you have, like, everybody's going to have this on some version of it. And
Yep.
so, and parenting, I mean, I've used it in parenting all the time when
Oh,
I'm like,
yeah.
man, I think I told them to clean that table like 17,000 times and yet it's still dirty. So
So weird.
it's so odd. I must not have been audible. Should I go to 450 or should I keep it? Like, it's just, that's the kind of person I want to be. And sometimes that's the other thing that I think to myself is, who do I want to be? What kind of person do I want to be? What kind of leader do I want to be? What kind of business owner do I want to be? What kind of, HR director do I want to be? And this is one of the tools that I go back to still. I mean, it gets better and
Yes.
better, but I still have to be like, oh, okay, you're at 450, chill.
Oh my gosh, it's so smart. Well, and I think it always helps us too to have an actual word picture that you're playing with
Mhm.
versus being like, you can control your response. And people are
Oh
like,
no.
okay, that's an interesting idea. Goodbye, idea. But when you tie it to like the heat of an
Uh-huh.
oven, okay, I got it. I got it. Where do I
Uh-huh.
want my oven to be
Uh-huh.
to get what I need to get
Yeah.
done?
100%.
And it's just interesting to think too. It also helps me to not be manipulative because I don't have to use my anger to get you to do what I want to do. I'm just going to say, hey, that's not going to work for me. I'm going to need like this and this. Boop.
Mhm.
It doesn't have to be. I can't believe you let that happen. Why would it? But just like
Yeah.
I can turn my oven down and still get this accomplished. I don't need to like torch this person.
That's such a great point. You're so right. I love that. It makes me also think of Gary Vee's latest book about kind candor,
Yes.
and how
Yep.
important that is. And that plays into it. I never thought about that connection, but it really does. It allows you, and again, back to it's like giving you momentum. 450 doesn't give you momentum. 450 shoots you through the roof.
It torches you.
Yeah,
Yep.
250 allows you to keep rolling along without having this huge spike.
I
So,
love it. Yep.
yeah.
I have like 12 copies of that book thanks to Gary Vee's. He had like a book games competition. So if you love Gary Vee and you want that book, message me. I'll send you a copy.
It's a phenomenal book.
It is. Okay, I am curious. Growing up, I'm sure you had lots of little businesses and things like that. And you had a mom that raised you to get to this point today. What are some things that your mom taught you about who you are that's uniquely Megan that still impact you today? Anything stand out?
Yeah, I had no idea there were things I couldn't do. My parents from the get-go made me feel like I could do anything.
Mm,
It was never a question of you can't do this because you're a girl or because we live in Oklahoma and you need to be, in New York for that or that. Like, I always felt like I could do anything. And I didn't recognize the greatness that was honestly until probably like a couple of years ago when I started
mhm.
to, I would say actually, I did realize that when I went to college because I was like, wow, their mom isn't very nice. Like, or, their mom, like they have these issues with their mom or their mom isn't supportive of them or whatever. I had constant support in my life. And I
Mm,
know that is such a gift. And I feel like it's funny. It's like an embarrassment of riches because I feel like it's been such an impact in my life. And it's actually why I want to speak and write and do these things because I really feel like I've been given such a gift that I want other people to feel that same support and feel that same belief. Like I believe anybody is capable of doing whatever they want to. And I know that came from the fact that that's how I was raised. My mom
yes.
used to be like, this is so weird to think about this, but like back before there were like women sportscasters, like there, before that was common, there's like, one person on ESPN that was a female or whatever. I remember my mom being like, you'd be so great at that because I was always into sports. You'd be, that would be so. And I just was always like, yeah, I'll probably do that. Like I didn't even think there are barriers or my mom broke barriers. She was like the first girl to go to her college. Like she was in the first female class at her college that she went to in Kansas City. I didn't have a governor. I never had a
I
governor on
love
what
it.
I felt like I could do. And that was because of the way my parents raised me.
Anything, really, the sky is the limit.
Mhm.
But it wasn't just something they would say to you over dinner. They lived it out every day. They showed you,
A hundred
like, you can do
percent.
whatever you want.
100%. And they enabled me to do it. And,
Mhm.
and it was really much more I love that you said it wasn't just like this one thing. It was definitely just the way they treated me and the way they raised me. And it wasn't some
Mhm.
big conversation of like, you can do anything, Megan. I believe in you. It wasn't like that. It was just, always knew they believed I could do anything. And even when I was like, probably times when I didn't know I could, like I think I was just
Mhm.
like, I just assumed they always knew I could. And I didn't even think about it. As a kid, I was just like, yeah, I can do anything. I don't know. They said I could, so I will,
I guess
and
I guess it's what I'm supposed
I
to
know.
do. Anything. See ya.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I think that was really important. And then the other thing is how they treated people. They were just both my parents are just good people. They're nice to people. They like each other. They like us. Like they're just good to human beings. And I know that was ingrained in me to just be nice. And, to the kid at school that gets bullied, like don't be a bully. Like ask them to play with you, go to their house. Like those are the lessons that my parents taught me. Take care of other people, send notes when
Mm.
people are sad. Like the, or need a hand or whatever.
Yes.
That's just what I saw all the time. And so that's my baseline. And so it's interesting. I think I was given a really strong foundation and mindset, and I had no idea. I had no idea
Yeah.
that I actually had that. I started doing work on my mindset, a year or two ago. And I was like, oh, a lot of this comes naturally to me because of the way I was raised, although I had no clue what I was actually doing, or like I didn't know
Mhm.
the mindset stuff behind it. But a lot of it
Yes.
comes from my parents.
That is so powerful to think about. It's not about teaching lessons. It's about living out
Yeah.
who you really are. I think about that whenever I'm in a frustrating situation or when I'm out traveling, I'm like, every single person that I encounter is the same as a client, is the same
Mhm.
as, they're I want to be so wildly consistent with the way that I approach people with kindness. That
Yeah.
kindness would be my knee-jerk reaction. That patience would be my knee-jerk reaction. I definitely don't do it perfect at all. And it's an interesting way to think about every place I go, have that much integrity that it doesn't matter that I would be
Yeah.
the same, because that is the alignment that you have. This is why you're such a force. It's because you have so much inner alignment in how you think, act, and behave, that things just you're not fighting inner bullies, you're not fighting these inner
Yeah.
parts of you. You're able to come in your presence. I actually wrote down the word, like, tell me about how you have the presence that you do. What do you suspect it is? And I suspect it's this inner alignment.
Thank you. That's nice. I would say, as you're talking, I'm like, yeah, I mean, I think that's it. I get, and I'm certain I know that you get this all the time too. You're so authentic. You're so real. And I'm like, what are we doing if we're not doing that? Like, who are you then? Like, are we all going to take a mask off and be like, I'm just kidding. I'm a jerk. You're like, what? Aren't we all trying to be nice, normal human beings that take care of each other? I didn't know this wasn't what we were all doing. I thought we were all doing that. And so I think that there's that part of it. Like, I don't have, like I mess up. I don't make good decisions. I could have done a lot of things differently. Flawed as you can imagine. I lose patience with my kids. I will yell. I don't. So I think part of it too is like that self-awareness. I think
Yes.
self-awareness is really important when in this conversation. Um, and then, yeah. And then I think again, it goes back to just taking care of people. Like I don't ever want to be shameful of a way I treated some person, and I think,
Exactly.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah. And then also too, frankly, having kids made me push me further into that direction. Like they need to see what I'm doing. I can't just be like, you should give to other people. Like they need to see what we're doing.
Yes.
They need to be a part of the things we're doing. We have these bags in our car. Scott McGregor had this whole thing. Anyways, we have bags. So when we see people in need, perhaps on the side of the road, we give them the bags. And now my kids, like, we're out of the bags. We need to go back and load up and get the bags. But my kids are a part of that and it was strictly because they pushed me to do that. Like, did I know I should have been doing that the 10 years, 20 years before that, before I had kids? Yes. Was I doing it?
Totally.
No. And so,
Yes.
it's also allowing the people around you to help them make you better and make you stronger, and knowing we can't do it alone. Like, let the people around you help you make you a better person, a better version of
Mhm.
yourself.
Mhm.
I don't
Yes.
think I answered your question at all. I just kind of went on a little thing there. So
I think we're
I don't
just
know.
talking about being aligned and the power that comes
Yeah.
when you really do live out and you don't talk about. I was reading something on parenting that was like, listen, if you want your kids to read more, you better read in front of them. If you
Mm-hmm.
want your kids to be outside and playing,
Mm-hmm.
and you're in the basement watching a movie all night, there's a reason that
Yeah.
they're little magnets. They're going to be drawn to whatever you're doing. So get outside and play,
Yeah.
or just get outside and read your book and let them play. But I
Yeah.
think
And
about that.
that
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just going to say that it doesn't have to be like hours every day. Like, go outside for 5 minutes with them if
Yeah.
that's what you want. Read for five, let them, it can be just little bits, but it has to be consistent. And it can be a little bit like, sometimes I'm like, oh my God.
Yes.
So how am I going to do all the things I need to do and teach these people how to be good? Like, that's exhausting. Like, that's too much. Like, I can't do this all. I can't play basketball for 3 hours when they get home, but I want them all to want to go outside and play basketball. But why are they inside? They're inside because
Yes.
I'm inside. So if I go out there for 5 minutes, the spark happens and then they're good to go. So anyway, so I just want to say, like, sometimes that feels daunting, but it doesn't have to be. It can be little bits, and that makes just as big of an impact.
Totally. That's it.
I
I'm
know.
curious if anybody has a question um, for Megan as a business leader, as a podcast host, as a speaker, as a Shark Tank celebrity. If you have any questions, this is your moment to shine, and send it to Sam or put it in the chat. Megan, will you tell us, you have this other branch of you've got Tippy Toes, you've got your podcast, you also have a speaking career. Can you tell us a little bit about what you've been speaking on at stages recently?
Yes. So one of the things I've been talking about is our superpowers. And I really love it because there's a few things. I think sometimes we all think that we have to have this special connection, or we have to have a lot of money, or we have to have this unbelievable life experience to be capable or worthy or to be able to do what we want to do in life. And that's just not
Yes.
true. And
Mm-hmm.
so I love discussing our superpowers, which, our instincts, that's a superpower. Like, what does your gut tell you? Listen to your gut. That's
You
all I
do
do.
say that a lot. And I'm like,
Yes.
Megan, just tell me the answer. Don't ask me.
Don't ask me to self-reflect. Yeah.
Ugh,
Yeah.
it's just
But
gotta be the
what
best practice I'm supposed to do. Just tell me
yes,
that.
blah, blah, blah. No, but it's empowering. It's like, what do you think? Does that resonate for you? Yes or no? Like, and there's a power within all of us that we have that. I also think another a superpower of ours is our courage. We have the courage. We all have courage inside of us. We have the courage to say yes to opportunity when it comes our way. We have the courage to believe in ourselves, but it takes, you have to tap into that. It's
That's
inside of
right.
you. You don't have to have a bunch of money. You have the courage to give yourself a chance.
That's
And
right.
that's by saying yes to opportunities that come your way. That's by saying yes to being on a certain team that you want to be on. That's by saying yes to signing yourself up for a race. That's by, whatever it is, have the courage, tap into that courage that's inside of you. Sometimes I think we forget that we are actually capable. We actually
Yeah.
have everything we need inside of us. And one of part of that is having the courage to say yes to those kind of opportunities.
Yep.
And then the other superpower I discuss is our own personal journey. Like, I think about, no one has done this, in my opinion, better than you with the band and with your speaking and the way you present yourself back. Like, this is your whole story. Like,
Mm-hmm.
when someone learns about you, they can see how this is uniquely you, who you are, what you do, how you present yourself. It is you. And what's amazing about the minute you own your journey is you're in a race of one.
That's
No one's
right.
going to be a better Lindsay than you are. No one's going to be a better Megan than I'm going to be. But it's like being comfortable with what that means. And so really
Yeah.
owning that journey and letting your past wins and failures inform who you are today. I talk about, like, my parents went through bankruptcy. I was in my early 20s and it was hard. Like, it was weird and it was
Mhm.
hard and it was scary, but that's informed me as a business owner. Like,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
helped me in my life. It's not something I'm shameful of or whatever. Like, I'm just saying, like, even the hard things can serve you in your life if you let them. So I love to speak about that. I love to speak about our superpowers. I love for people to, just recognize their own greatness that's right inside of them. And
Mhm.
because I just want people to feel fulfilled and feel like they are really tapping into all their greatness. And honestly, nothing fires me up more than the idea of sparking that for somebody else, or pointing that out to them, or letting someone know, like, hey, you don't need anybody else. You have the tools right inside of you. If you tap into them and you own who you are and you trust your gut and you have the courage to say yes, you are off to the races and you're going to live a very fulfilled life if you can do those few things.
That's so true. The fulfillment around knowing who you are and starting there
Mm-hmm.
and not trying to be, oh, I'm looking at, oh, Sarah Blakely. Like, I think about Sarah all the time. Like, how the heck did you think of Spanx? I know how you thought of it, but I mean, like,
Right. Right.
I'll like look around my office and be like, what is something that needs to be made? What can I make? And I'm like, that's not me. What
Right.
am I doing? What am I
Yeah.
doing? How did I get? But we do look at people that we admire, and if we can look at how they own their unique life and we own our unique life, and isn't it interesting too? I feel like the farther away I get from my early adulthood, the more I see it for what it was and not this glamorized thing. I'm like, well, I used to be a missionary in a Christian church, in a Christian organization. I left all of that, which was very tumultuous
Mhm.
emotionally, relationally. I looked like, for everyone that was in ministry, it was like, Lindsay flaked out, and then she
Yeah.
came out, which was the worst thing I could have done after that. And you're like, man, these pieces, depending on your perspective, look
Yeah.
like huge fails. And to me, it's just like another freaking mile on that mountain of courage. Like, I just
Yeah.
made it another mile. I'm stronger for it. But
100%.
sometimes we look back and we know. I think about, like, I wonder what people think of me. And then I'm like, who cares what they think of me? I'll never know. I got to keep
Yeah.
moving. I got
Yeah.
stuff to do.
Yeah.
I've got people to
100%.
love.
Yeah. Yeah. And they need me to be me. And I can't be me if I'm
Yes.
worried about what other people's perception of me is. Like, that's not
Yes.
my business. That's not my concern. And yeah, and that's a game you don't win. That's, you
You
don't
don't.
win that. You don't win that game. And so then and I don't like to spend my time or my energy in places that I don't have I don't have that control or that power or that influence over. And that kind of goes back to the things I think are so important is like, what is within your control? What do you have inside of you? Like, let's talk about that. And
Yes.
you double down on that. And it's just, it's a really happy, positive space to be in.
That is so powerful. And there's so much freedom and power in the way that you think about the world, the way you live your life, Megan. I know that it's so interesting because during this show, the more and more people are coming in to the room wanting to listen. And so I think that's really cool. And I'm so lucky to have you on my life team, y'all. I talk about life teams all the time. I have people who are ahead of you on the journey that you can speak to, that you can bring problems to. And you mentioned this earlier, but the only people that criticize you are those that are behind you on the path, who are intimidated by you. And when you put people around you who are ahead of you, that you look up to, they're always going to cheer you on, that they're not threatened by you. And there's something, you've really taught me that in a human to human way. It's not a principle anymore. I know, Megan, I could tell you anything and you'd be like, okay,
Yes.
what's
That's
next?
true.
And there's real power in having people around you that you admire. There's a lot of courage that I borrow from you. And I think it means a lot that you came on the show today. You came on the porch and just talked about life, talked about what it's like to be you, to interview moms, what you've learned from your parents. Powerful, powerful life lessons.
Well, this is a blast. Like this is a privilege for me. The porch, I have known the porch long before I knew you. I knew about the porch. So I appreciate it. And I love the community that you've built and the leadership that you have in this space specifically, I think is transformational. I think you do it really like in such a special and empowering way that those that are watching you, you're giving them permission. You're giving them courage to also do the same thing and own their journey. So I am such a fan and I am so glad I got to be here. So this was awesome. Thank you.
You're the best, Megan. Thank you so much. Thanks, everybody, for coming and for being a part of this. We will make a recording, so if you want to send it to your friends and colleagues, please do. Megan will help you at any time. If you're walking your dog 3 weeks from now, you can listen to this if you'd like to.
Love it.
Megan, where would it be best for people to connect with you?
I'm a LinkedIn junkie. I do love me some LinkedIn. So you
Yeah.
can go to at Megan L. Reilly. It's Reilly. That kind of throws people off. So LinkedIn is where you're going to get my business stuff, and Instagram will be where you get my more personal things. But you can also go to whoisyourmomma.com, and that is my website with information about the podcast, speaking, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, but come hang out with me wherever you find me. Love to
Wherever
see
she
you.
is.
Tell me whether you were here and we can hang out.
I love that. Thank you so much, Megan. Megan's information is in the chat, so click and connect with her.
Go
Yes.
Sam. She is Samantha.
She's on it.
She's on it. Yeah.
She's on it.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Megan. I hope you have a great week. And I know a lot of people are giving some feedback right now. This is so helpful. Thank you, Megan. You are just a light in my world. I'm sending you gratitude this week and always. And yes, we'll see you again on the porch in June. Thanks, everybody.